Now we will discuss Wernicke's and Conduction Aphasia. Carl Wernicke discovered a different form of aphasia, which basically results from damage in the region which is the left temporal lobe, and that is near the auditory cortex. Now, Wernicke's aphasia is also known as receptive aphasia, and it is considered as fluent aphasia, unlike Broca's aphasia, which is non-fluent. Now, the patient who suffer from this type of aphasia, they do have the fluent speech, but that speech is of very little or no informational value. The third major type of aphasia is the conduction aphasia, in which disturbance of repetition has been observed. The patients who suffer from this type of aphasia, they can understand and process speech, but they have a problem when it comes to repeating. So the problem is that of repetition in this. Now we will look at these two different types of aphasia and see how patients perform under these conditions. Wernicke's aphasia, which is also known as receptive aphasia, is the one in which individuals have difficulty understanding written and spoken language. Common symptoms seen in patients with Wernicke's aphasia are impaired comprehension, poor word retrieval, fluent speech, production of jargon, and awareness. So when we are looking at the impaired comprehension, how impaired comprehension takes place, deficits in understanding, which is receptive written and spoken language, is what leads to the impaired comprehension. This is because Wernicke's area is responsible for assigning meaning to the language that is heard. So if it is damaged, the brain cannot comprehend the information that is being received. In the poor word retrieval, ability to retrieve target words is impaired. This is also referred to as anomia. Fluent speech. Individuals with Wernicke's aphasia do not have difficulty with producing connected speech that flows. Although the connection of the words may be appropriate, the words they are using may not belong together to make sense. So there is no coherence. So whatever they are saying, although they are grammatical, there is a connection, but they don't make sense. Production of jargon. Speech that lacks content consists of typical intonations and that is structurally intact. Jargon can consist of string of neologism as well as combination of real words that do not make sense together in the context. Awareness. Individuals with Wernicke's aphasia are often not aware of their incorrect production, which would further explain why they do not correct themselves when they produce jargon and neologisms. Conduction aphasics will show relatively well-preserved auditory comprehension, which may even be completely functional. Spontaneous speech production will be fluent and generally grammatically and syntactically correct. Intonations and articulations will also be preserved. Speech under these circumstances will often contain paraphasic errors. Now these paraphasic errors are phonemes and syllables. They will be dropped to transposed. For example, snowball to snowball, television to validation, etc. The hallmark deficit of this disorder, however, is in repetition. Patients suffering from conduction aphasia will show a marked inability to repeat words or sentences when they are asked to do so. After saying a sentence to a person with conduction aphasia, he or she will be able to paraphrase the sentence accurately, but will not be able to repeat it. Possibly because their motor speech error processing is disrupted by inaccurate forward predictions, or because detected errors are not translated into corrective commands due to damage to the auditory motor interface. Thus, Wernicke's aphasia is associated with deficits in comprehension and semantic organization. Conduction aphasia results from dissociation of an intact Broca's area from an intact Wernicke's area and leads to a deficit in repetition.